Welcome to Acts of Kindness, the place where true-to-life stories come alive, where we uncover the unexpected twists of fate, the choices people make, and the lessons that shape our lives. If you're ready for another tale that will leave you questioning trust, loyalty, and destiny, stay with me until the end, because this story is one you won't soon forget. It all began on a humid Friday evening in the heart of the city. The streets were alive with the familiar buzz of late-night traffic, couples strolling hand in hand, and tourists searching for their next experience. In one of the city's most luxurious five-star hotels, chandeliers glistened above marble floors, soft music floated in the background, and every detail seemed designed to make anyone forget the chaos of the outside world. This was a place of discretion, a place where secrets could be hidden behind closed doors. For Thomas, that was exactly the appeal. Thomas was a successful businessman in his early 40s. With sharp features, an expensive taste in suits, and a charming smile, he looked like the picture of accomplishment. He had built his company from the ground up, provided a lavish home for his family, and maintained the image of a devoted husband and father. To outsiders, he was everything a man should be. But beneath the polished surface, Thomas was a man restless with temptation. For months, he had been seeing Isabella, a woman 10 years younger than him, strikingly beautiful with a magnetic energy that pulled him in. She wasn't just someone he met randomly, she was an employee at another firm he frequently collaborated with. What started as late-night conversations over work slowly turned into something more personal, and soon Thomas found himself caught in a dangerous affair. This particular Friday, Thomas had promised Isabella an evening she wouldn't forget. He had booked one of the most extravagant suites at the five-star hotel, complete with a private dining service, champagne on ice, and a panoramic view of the city skyline. To Isabella, this was proof of his devotion, proof that he was serious about her. To Thomas, it was just another way to escape the responsibilities of his real life. When they arrived, Isabella twirled in the suite, her laughter echoing against the walls. She kissed him deeply, whispering about the future they could have together. Thomas tried to silence the part of his mind that reminded him of his wife, Claire, and their 2 children waiting at home. He poured them each a glass of champagne, telling himself this was just for tonight. But fate has a strange way of catching us at our weakest moments. As the evening went on, Isabella suggested they go down to the hotel's exclusive restaurant for dinner. Thomas hesitated at first, the risk of being seen gnawed at him, but Isabella insisted, pouting playfully, and finally he gave in. They dressed elegantly, walked hand in hand to the elevator, and made their way to the glowing restaurant where soft jazz played and couples dined in candlelight. The hostess greeted them with a smile and escorted them to their table. Thomas glanced around nervously, scanning for familiar faces. So far, so good. Isabella chatted happily, her laughter filling the air. Thomas forced himself to relax, convinced that everything would be fine. But then, just as the waiter poured their wine, Thomas froze. His heart nearly stopped beating. Across the room, a woman in a sleek black dress walked in with an air of quiet confidence. Her hair was styled elegantly, her eyes sharp, her movements graceful. Thomas knew that figure instantly, knew that walk better than he knew his own. It was Claire, his wife. Shock crashed into him like a tidal wave. What was she doing here? Why now? He sat frozen, gripping the edge of the table as Isabella noticed his expression and asked what was wrong. He couldn't answer. Claire, unaware at first of his presence, approached the maitre d' with calm poise. She exchanged a few words, and Thomas noticed something that made his blood run cold. The staff greeted her with an unusual level of respect. The maitre d' personally escorted her to a reserved table in the center of the room, the kind usually kept for VIPs. Then Thomas overheard it. The staff whispered, congratulating her as the new operations director of the hotel. It hit him all at once, Claire had accepted a new position. She hadn't told him yet because she wanted to surprise him. And now, here she was, walking confidently into her new role, while he sat just meters away with another woman. Thomas's palms grew sweaty, his throat dry. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Isabella, still oblivious, leaned forward to touch his hand, but he yanked it back instinctively. He couldn't let Claire see. But fate wasn't about to let him off the hook. As if drawn by instinct, Claire's eyes wandered across the room. They stopped suddenly on Thomas. For a moment, her expression was blank, like her mind was refusing to believe what her eyes were showing her. Then slowly, the truth dawned. Her lips parted slightly, her face hardened, and the warmth drained from her features. Thomas felt as though the ground had been ripped from under him. He wanted to get up, to run, to explain, but there was no escape. Claire didn't make a scene. She didn't scream or cry. She simply locked eyes with him, a calm intensity that spoke louder than any words. Then, with deliberate grace, she turned away, sat at her table, and carried on with her evening as if he no longer existed. That was somehow worse than if she had confronted him. The rest of the night was torture. Thomas couldn't eat, couldn't think. Isabella noticed his mood and grew frustrated, but she didn't understand the storm raging inside him. He made excuses, claiming he wasn't feeling well, and hurriedly ended the night. But the image of Claire's expression haunted him. Back home later, the house felt colder than ever. Claire wasn't there. She hadn't returned. Thomas sat in the silence, guilt gnawing at him. For the first time in months, he realized just how much he stood to lose: his family, his marriage, his respect. He thought about Claire, the woman who had stood by him through every hardship, who had celebrated his victories, who had trusted him completely. And now, he had betrayed her in the worst way possible. The following morning, Claire finally returned home. She walked past him without a word, her face unreadable. The silence was deafening. When he tried to speak, his voice cracked. He begged her to listen, to give him a chance to explain. But Claire simply said, "There's nothing left to explain, Thomas. I saw everything." Her calmness cut deeper than anger ever could. She'd packed a small bag and told him she needed space. Their children were staying with her parents for the weekend, and she wasn't sure what the future held. For the next several days, Thomas lived in a fog of regret. He called her repeatedly, sent messages, even showed up at her workplace with flowers. But Claire remained distant, professional, and cold. She had built walls around her heart, and Thomas realized those walls might never come down. Isabella, frustrated by the lack of attention, eventually ended things with him. She had no interest in being part of a scandal, especially with someone whose heart clearly still belonged to his wife. In the end, Thomas was left completely alone, with nothing but his guilt for company. Weeks passed before Claire finally agreed to meet him at a quiet cafe. Thomas arrived early, rehearsing his words, desperate to convince her that he could change. When Claire walked in, her presence still took his breath away. She sat across from him, her hands folded neatly, her face calm but firm. "Thomas," she said softly, "do you even realize what you've done?" He nodded, tears welling in his eyes. He tried to explain his weakness, his mistakes, his foolishness. He admitted that he had been selfish, that he had taken her love for granted. He begged for another chance, promising to do whatever it took to earn her trust again. Claire listened silently. When he finished, she sighed. "You've always thought life was about what you could get away with," she said. "But now you've learned that the truth always finds a way out. I don't know if I can forgive you yet. But I know this: I won't let your choices define me. I will move forward, with or without you." Her words shattered him, but they also planted a seed of realization. For the first time, Thomas understood the weight of betrayal, the fragility of trust, and the true value of what he had nearly thrown away. The road ahead was uncertain. Whether Claire would eventually forgive him or not, Thomas knew he had to change, not for her, not for appearances, but for himself. The man he had become was not the man he wanted to be. This story is not just about betrayal. It's about the choices we make when we think no one is watching, and the consequences that follow when the truth finally comes to light. It's about realizing too late that love and trust are far more valuable than fleeting moments of passion. As Thomas learned, secrets can't stay hidden forever. And sometimes, the moment you least expect is the one that changes your life forever. So, what do you think? If you were in Claire's shoes, would you forgive Thomas? Or would you walk away and never look back? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching Acts of Kindness. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that reveal the raw truths of life and love. Until next time, take care of your heart, value the ones who stand by you, and remember, kindness and honesty will always lead you down the right path.